Hi, my name is Dave. Welcome to Rockin' the Mitten. I appreciate you stopping by. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe and staying healthy. Noticed a couple of new subscribers over the last month or so really appreciate you subscribing, taking the time to watch my videos. I hope to hear from you in the comments soon. But yeah, so not a lot going on around these parts other than, sitting at home, spinning some records, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Things seem to be a little heavy on the Scottish bands this time around, so it just seemed to work out that way. So if you're into music from Scotland, I'm not talking like Scottish bagpipe music or anything like that, so don't freak out. Just bands from Scotland. So if you're into learning more about bands from Scotland, I've got a few in the stack here. But this first one is not. This just goes north of the border a little bit to Canada. This is Reckless from Bryan Adams, 1984. I'm not a huge Bryan Adams fan, but being the age I was in the mid-'80s, you couldn't get away from this on the radio. I mean, One Night Love Affair, She's Only Happy When She's Dancing, Run to You, Heaven, Summer of '69, of course, Kids Wanna Rock. You just couldn't escape this guy on the radio. So yeah, it's in the collection for that fact alone. Not so much sure I'm going to be seeing much more of Bryan in my collection other than this one, but it is what it is. So yeah, not much more to say about that one. This next band, I've really wanted to get into this band. They are from Detroit, so right away it's kind of my thing, Rockin' the Mitten. But normally the style of music they play is not my cup of tea, to put it mildly. But I'm giving it another try. And I may have probably chosen the wrong album to get this started. I don't know. We'll see. I do have a couple more I picked up recently I haven't listened to yet, so we'll see. But the band is Lair Earth. And of course they were signed to Motown originally. Big hit, their heyday was in the 70s. This is a 1977 album. I believe this was their 9th. And this was to be somewhat of a reunion of that early 70s lineup. But it didn't really work out that way. Only singer Peter Horlbeek was returned to the band. The others just kind of dropped out. And this was also the first album on a Motown spin-off called Prodigal. And there's the label right there, which is not too bad looking label. But yeah, as far as the music, this is straight up funk. If you think of like bands like Average White Band, that's what you get here. And it just doesn't do anything for me. I spun this a couple of times. I just couldn't get into it. We'll see. Like I said, I've got a couple more to pick, or that I've picked up. I'll give that a try, but it's not looking good. This may be a Michigan band that just does not hang around very long. But if you're into the funk, give them a try. Maybe not this album. This is kind of like beyond their heyday. So I'm not really sure where to start with that band. So don't listen to me for advice. But now let's hop over to Scotland real quick. This is a band that I've really enjoyed. They're an indie band out of Glasgow, and this is Bell and Sebastian. This is Girls in Peacetime Want to Dance. This is a 2015 release. I have on Matador Records. I have most of their albums and EPs, they released a ton of EPs, all on CD. But I came across this one at Barnes & Noble for the 50% off sale, and it was just an absolute no-brainer. If you're not familiar with Bell and Sebastian, like I say, indie band, they do have a lot of influences, and they all seem to congregate on this album. Let me get to gatefold here real quick. It's a double album. Everything from what you would expect from indie to dance to shoegaze. It's really all over the place, but it's still really cohesive. Pull out a couple of kind of not so exciting custom labels. And the thing that's kind of a drawback is there's only 3 songs per side. So you're basically, you're switching the record a lot. So it kind of breaks up what I think, if you could listen to it at least half through before switching, will be a much more cohesive listen. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, I really enjoyed this album. Here's some of the inners, not some of them, but both of the inners. Nice cardboard inners. Song that stood out to me the most was the highest energetic song. I believe it was this third track on side B, was Enter Edith Plath, or Enter Sylvia Plath. Look that one up, see what you think about that one. But yeah, if you've never heard of Bell and Sebastian, I would venture to suggest you start here, because this really covers the gamut of what they do. Now, a lot of their albums are kind of that indie singer-songwriter, folksy stuff. Some of their albums are more indie pop, but this, like I said, pretty much has everything that they do packaged into one. So this was an excellent album, in my opinion. If you've heard it, let me know what you think. If you listen to it, let me know what you think. Not for everybody, but it's definitely one of the more robust Scottish bands that I would recommend out there. Keeping it in Scotland, keeping it in Glasgow, is a band from the early or late 60s, early 70s. This is actually their 1970 album, Reflections of My Life, by the Marmalade, or the Marmalade, however you want to pronounce it. This is pretty typical pop psych. This came out in 1970 on London Records. Don't know if I said 1970 yet, but it did on London Records. The title track was cracked the top 10, Billboard top 10 in January of 1970. And like I said, it's pretty typical stuff, but it's enjoyable. They do a cover of James Taylor's Carolina in My Mind, which was fun. Songs that stood out to me were both on the second side. Fight Say the Mighty. So if you want to check out that song, that's good. But what really hooked me was a song called Kaleidoscope. So if you want to Google that, maybe they've got that on YouTube, I don't know. But like I say, it's fairly typical, but it was really enjoyable. I really dug this. So if you're a fan of pop psych at all, and you haven't heard of the Marmalade, give it a listen. Definitely will be worth your while. Back here to Motown for a bit is Aretha Franklin, Who's Zoomin' Who. Yeah, this is not classic Aretha. This is what, 1984, 1985 on Arista. So yeah, definitely 80s pop production going on here, but her voice is just unmistakable. I mean, her voice makes this album. You could put circus music behind her voice, and I think you would get a successful album. This did have a Freeway of Love, which was a rather hit single, was on the Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack, and features a saxophone solo from Clarence Clemens. Their Sisters Are Doing It For Themselves, which is also another radio staple, which featured the Eurythmics, both Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart. Push, which I don't remember hearing, but it was a duet with Peter Wolf, and even when I heard it, I still didn't remember hearing it back in the day. And then there's Integrity, which has a trumpet solo from Dizzy Gillespie. So a lot of star power behind her on this one too. So again, if you're an Aretha fan, don't shy away from this one just because of the 80s and the whole and the cover. Her voice is still, you can't beat it. So. And sticking with female solo artists, this time going back to Scotland. This is the debut solo album from 1974 from Maggie Bell called Queen of the Night. Now Maggie was the front woman of a band called Stone the Crows, a psych rock band out of Scotland. She broke off on her own when the band dissolved. It wasn't really that she broke off on her own, the band dissolved until she went solo. I had not heard any Stone the Crows before hearing this album. I had not heard any Maggie before this album. But I did read a little bit about her, and she was often compared to Janis Joplin, is going so far as to say UK's version of Janis Joplin. And after hearing this album, I definitely can hear it. She's definitely got that same vocal style. The music is very bluesy rock, more blues than rock, as a matter of fact. There's a little bit of country rock in a couple of songs too, but she does everything on this album except for the title track, and I believe the last track are covers. She does a cover of Eric Clapton's cover of After Midnight. I think that was about the most noticeable one. I looked them all up. They're way back, 60s, early 70s originals. So and she's not picking up on too many hits. She's covering some rather B-side sort of songs. But nevertheless, and I'm not a fan of Janis Joplin. So sue me, but I'm not. And so I didn't really dig what I was hearing on this album. I'll recommend it if you're a fan of Janis and you're looking for an alternative that you haven't explored yet. Try this, but for me, I don't know how far this is going to go. Yeah, she's Scottish, but I may give another album another try. Maybe listen before I buy, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, finally, this is a little bit of sunshine pop from the '60s. I don't remember exactly what year, maybe 1969, 67, can't remember exactly. But it's the debut album of Harpers Bazaar, Feelin' Groovy, which of course has Paul Simon's 59th Street Bridge or Feelin' Groovy on it. And this was an absolute mint mono copy. Which, it's nothing special, but it's still just the fact that it is minty mint. Both cover and vinyl, couldn't pass this up, and you gotta. I enjoyed this album, I do. You gotta be in the mood for sunshine pop. It gets a bad rap in the vinyl community. I think a lot of people kind of deride the style of music, but it serves a purpose. Especially in times like we live right now, where maybe you or somebody you love or know is very anxious or stressed or maybe even panicked about what's happening in the world, what could happen, what's happened, what may happen. That's what this music was written for. Yeah, the times were different then. They didn't have the same kinds of problems that we have today. Some do exist today that existed then, but right here and now they didn't. But putting this music on and opening yourself up to it is music is the best therapy. And by opening up to something that's just written to make you feel good, to just say, hey brother, relax a little, it's gonna get better, it's gonna pass. Could do wonders. So you know what? Like I say, if you're anxious, somebody who is struggling, find send them some links on YouTube or whatever of these guys, or maybe the Monkees or Bay City Rollers, and just say, have a good day. Relax today. Just take some time out and enjoy life. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate you tuning in, taking the time to watch, and I hope I hear from you in the comments. I love talking about the music with you guys, so looking forward to hearing from you. So until next time, which I don't know when that will be, but until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and stay healthy.